Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats. All right, so I have got the distinct honor to talk to you a little bit about something that we are all so amazingly passionate about, innovation. You know, a lot of folks here know that we've been talking for a while about innovation and what our airmen can do to drive change in our Air Force. And what I'm here to talk to you about a little bit this morning is how we're actually putting that into action. And it's not ideas coming from me, and it's not ideas coming from General Miller. It is the ideas coming from your airmen out there each and every day. And so this morning we're going to kick off the Aether Sprint. So if you recall back about 3 years ago, it started with the LOA think tanks. And it's putting the great minds of all of you guys out there to solve some of our biggest challenges. Last year, it transitioned to the Aether Sprint for our first iteration and trying to solve some of the biggest challenges. And we gave them 3 or 4 challenges to go after. And I'll give you some results of the folks that were on the stage literally just last year. And what the good news about it is we talked about multi-capable airmen and the ideas that came from you guys and how they're there working with Chief Sells, driving change in terms of multi-capable airmen coming from our airmen themselves. Huge, huge, huge win. We talk about driving culture change. So 3 years ago, we had 9 teams compete. Last year, we had 27 teams compete. This year, we gave you guys 5 big old challenges, and we had 39 different LOA chapters competing against each other to make our Air Force better. Now, I know last year we had 3 folks on stage, and I know folks are like, you're going to put young airmen up here on stage at LOA? Oh, yes, I am. Because you will be amazed at their ingenuity and their passion and their desire to drive change. Some of these airmen are so passionate and so dedicated and have these out-of-the-box thinking that we pulled them onto our Tesseract team. And in fact, when I passed the baton to a senior airman, he was on stage last year. He was part of the team that tried to drive change on how we work stock control. And I'll tell you, the ideas that this young airman and his entire team had are working with our AFR, with our LR team and our ILSS team so that we can put the right things at the right place at the right time. And yeah, we've got ideas, but the ideas coming from our airmen, that's where the power is. That's where the passion is. And so just to kind of share with you how well innovation has caught on in the logistics space. If anybody was out at AFA, Spark Tanks, final stage, final 5 big teams, 4 out of the 5 came from the A4 portfolio. The winner and the fan favorite came from our A4 portfolio. That's awesome. On top of that, your fan favorite is going to be on stage with you today, just to share the goodness that is coming out of these absolutely amazing teams. And so we had one team, the Janus Project, that I said talked about multi-capable airmen and what we're doing to get them inculcated into the solution set that we're trying to drive for the Air Force. They're doing amazing things. The second team, the Reliable Spark Plugs, came out of Eielson. They're the ones that are trying to get robotic process automation to streamline what it is we're doing. Well, their idea, we hooked them up with the Robotic Process Automation Center of Excellence. They're working with the PEO. They have a test in work. It is going through final testing, and their project is going to be implemented and available to Log Nation real soon as it gets through the final testing. But the ability of these ideas to connect them with resources has been nothing short of spectacular. So yes, the ideas we're putting forth in front of you, we're actually doing something with. We made a promise to you last year and the year before that if you have ideas that can make our Air Force better, we're going to support you, we're going to empower you, we're going to resource you, and we're going to get it over the end line. So let me talk a little bit about resourcing. I know that's the biggest challenge. The Tesseract team was a test. In the past year, we have an approved OCR, we have an approved budget to take these ideas to get them over the end line. So Tesseract is doing an absolutely amazing thing. And this year, we're going for permanence based on manpower and in the POM process. So we are going to get this over the end line. It is an amazing team. So one of the individuals that had the chance to be on the stage just last year, Master Sergeant Barry, he was leading the Eielson team. He is now leading our Tesseract team. And in fact, he led this entire effort. And oh, by the way, he is now Senior Master Sergeant Select Philip Barry. So congrats. So as you know, the Tesseract team has been all over the place. You've seen them in their black shirts, you've seen the patches running around. Reach out to them, talk to them, communicate with them. If your team has an idea, see what they can do to help bring it together, talk to the other bases, connect the dots, scale them. We'll see what we can do to resource them, and we'll see what we can do to work together to make our Air Force stronger. So this culture of innovation is absolutely spectacular. The thing that's so cool about it is when you go out there and you talk to our airmen, and they have an idea, and you encourage them and you empower them and you let them try things, you know what? They just kind of walk a little taller. And they have this sense of pride that they own the problem sets of our Air Force and that they truly can make a difference and drive change. And that has made a difference over the past few years, and I am so proud of this organization here at LOA, the Tesseract team, and all of you out there to drive this change. So, Tesseract's getting ready to go through some transition. We got a lot of good folks on the team, but we're going to rotate them out and get them back out there, and we're going to bring in some new teammates. But the one I do want to highlight, Lieutenant Colonel John Menashe is currently our Tesseract team lead. He is getting ready to leave to go take command of the LRS out at Agadez. So he's going to do amazing things. But we got a superstar coming in right behind him. Lieutenant Colonel Nick Lee is a commander out at Peterson, the LRS. He is your new Tesseract lead. Not mine, yours. So that's enough about last year. Let's start looking forward to this year and all the great things. Now, traditionally, we've had 3 people up on stage. Quite frankly, I took 6 presentations. They were all absolutely amazing, and I couldn't say no to 4. So I audibled, and you're going to get 4 presentations this morning because they are truly that good. So let me tell you a little bit about the challenges that they're trying to solve. And so I gave them 5. We gave them 5. I messaged it. How might we leverage process improvement and commercialized supply chain processes to increase material management, distribution, and positioning? Think, we're in an ACE environment. What can we do to get after that? How do we increase the flexibility and the variability and the mobility of our age equipment and our aviation support equipment? How can we maintain our assets? How do we manufacture components in a disconnected or a mobile type of environment? Because, I mean, if you think about it, everything we do is IT related. Everything we do is on the low side. We are going to be disconnected. Our airmen are going to have to think on their own. They're going to have to perform on their own in a contested environment. How might we better do that? And the last one is, how might we, or how could you potentially propose cargo improvement for ACE operations? How do you do cargo movement in a non-standard manner? Well, what you're going to see this morning is a group of folks who've come up with ideas to how to mitigate all those challenges. They're young, they're energetic, cheer them on, and let's encourage them and empower them. Now with that, I'm going to bring up our senior airman, James Dorfler, who was on stage last year doing amazing things. So he joined our Tesseract team and just had his first little musketeer. Baby Mia, June 22nd, 27th, and we've got her fully decked out in Tesser gear and all sorts of cool things. So he's gonna come out here with the biggest smile on his face because he's a proud dad, but more importantly, he's part of the Tesseract team and leading airman innovation for all of you. So with that, James, come on out.
Thank you, Major General Hurry, for that awesome introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be a junior enlisted member of this Air Force and have the ears of this enterprise. I would like to share 4 teams, what they've been doing with you guys, but really I'd just like to get out of their way. They're gonna have about 10 minutes to present, after which I'm gonna ask some questions that we've been fielding from LOA attendees all week. If you have any questions that do not get covered by their presentations or by what I bring up, please feel free to reach out to anyone on the Tesseract team or find us in the lobby afterwards. Without further ado, please welcome the first team, modernizing aircraft jacking, all the way from the 86th MXG at Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Tech Sergeant Brandon Hughes, and with me I have Senior Airman Norris King. We are members of the Modernized Aircraft Jacking Team. Also on our team with us here today are Master Sergeant Christopher Stoller, Senior Master Sergeant Jason Lanehart, and Tech Sergeant Caleb Danico. So Tesseract issued this challenge statement to us. Our answer was, let's reduce the manpower needed to jack an aircraft, let's get the proper equipment to jack an aircraft, and really just make the whole process way better. So our current system requires 7 members and takes about 8 hours to complete a full jack up and down. This is the highest manpower draw our maintenance group is going to experience. And at Ramstein over the last 2 years, we average about 4 jacks per month. So 4 times a month, our maintenance group was experiencing the largest manning draw, and you effectively had 1 shift accomplishing a single task, which is unacceptable. The equipment that we use is from the 1960s, so as long as our aircraft have been in service, it's the same equipment that we're using now. Hasn't changed, it's gotten new paint, but it's not changed. It takes a long time to train, 184 hours to officially get a full team online. I've been in the military for 12 years, and it wasn't until my 6th year that I finally got my 7 level, put on an SCR, and was trusted to lead a jack. It just takes too long to finally get to that point. All right, so we're gonna walk through this together as a jack supervisor. You've now all been put on the SCR, it's your chance to lead it. You found the 7 members that you need, and you're going to start by pushing in these wing jacks into place. They're big, they're heavy, they've got wheels, but the wheels are basically that 4th wobbly wheel on a Walmart buggy. It's not easy. You're gonna fight it every step of the way. So after you get those into position somehow, you're going to drag your hydraulic lines over to the jacks. They're dripping hydro. Once you finally connect them, they're gonna spray hydro a little bit. The manifold itself that you pulled these lines from are based at the front of the aircraft. Now this manifold is essentially just a large diesel generator. It's going to spit out exhaust fumes into the face of whatever poor airman that you've decided is gonna run the manifold. And it's loud. It sits at 87 decibels while it's operating, which for reference is kind of like being in a rock concert. So now you've got him in the position, you're ready to go up and start seating your jacks. And how we do it is a sledgehammer. You're going to beat and wail and swing away at the feet of these jacks until they are situated and stable on the ground. And once you do it to one jack, you go to the other, and you go to the 2 noses, and you make your circle until everything is stable and seated. Now, when you're jacking an aircraft, obviously you don't want to tip it off the jack, so how we do that is we use what we call a plumb bob, and it's going to tell us how level we are as we go up. And what this is a lead weight that is tied to a string, and we suspend it from the roof of the aircraft, and it sways across a ruler that's bolted to the floor and tells us how leaning we are. We told that to an MRO exec, and he just laughed at us. Couldn't believe that's how we did it. So now we're going to go up with these jacks. As we're putting pressure to them and we're going up in the air, you as a jack supervisor, you're gonna make your lap around the jacks, around the plane. You're gonna make sure that all the feet are seated, and you're just gonna keep hitting them with sledgehammers. You're just gonna keep making sure they're seated. So you've got a guy that's in a rock concert inhaling diesel fumes, yelling at you to let you know what you're doing. The plumb bob is yelling at those guys. You've got 4 airmen that we've just put up under a plane that we're lifting, hands in a pinch point trying to guide the safety lock. All they hear is engine noise, sledgehammers, yelling. Is the plane coming down? I don't know. Hope not, but that's all they hear. It's chaos, and it's normal 4 times a month. So here's how we fixed it. The electronic jacking and leveling system. This is going to take 2 people 35 minutes to completely set up a jack and put the plane in the air. That's from nothing around the plane, aircraft in the air ready to do what you need to do. It's a 72% manning reduction and saves 7.5 hours for the task. It took us 2 hours to learn how to use this equipment. Now, how you seat the jacks is completely changed. No more sledgehammers. You spin that wheel that's on the foot of the jack, and once it touches the ground, it's seated. That's it. It will just rely on the pressure from the plane going up in the air to maintain that position. You can also see that it's pivoted, so gone are the days of worrying about how level your parking spot is. Unless you're trying to jack on like a half pipe, it's gonna go. When you put it into position, you use a laser guide. It's gonna give you a little crosshair and point exactly where on the plane that your jack is about to touch. The manifold is replaced by a console. It's just a computer. It's got a nice touchscreen that tells you, hey, make sure you're not gonna jack into anything or crush anything under you. Are you ready to go? And then it is a green button that you hit and you go up. No more pinch points and putting our airmen underneath a plane. It locks itself. Gone are the days of having all of these people in places that you really don't need them. It takes one person and a finger to hit a button. And these are used by multiple MDSs. It's possible. So what we wanted to do was try and get a side-by-side of the new jacks in operation and the old jacks. Unfortunately, because of operational requirements at Ramstein, for a period of about 36 hours, we just didn't have people. We did not have the manning to devote to the old jacking system without jeopardizing other things going on. But what you're gonna see here is 2 people do a jack in 30 minutes. So in that 36 hours, we could have jacked an aircraft 66 times. The first day we had them, we did it 5 times, and I have never seen 5 jacks in a day, let alone 2. And this was done, we had a group commander come out and do it. We had a German intern that works with us come out and do it, 15 years old. It's easy, it's incredibly user-friendly.
So this is a video of me and a German national jacking the plane with these jacks. So as you can see, we're putting out the lines, getting them all connected to the module and things like that. Super simple, it's plug and play. And then you seat the jacks by just using a finger, you just spin it down, right? After that, it's done, it's seated. We're getting the jacks into a line with the laser. You can see us putting the laser on the top, getting it right on the spot on the wing. And for the noses, it's easier. You just pump it up, get it connected, super simple, right? And like that, you just push a button and plane's 6 inches in the air. It's done. Thank you. So how does this benefit us? Well, it's gonna give us the aircraft availability back, right? So if we had these jacks 2 years ago, we would have seen an increase of 4% at Ramstein alone, right? It's also gonna give us our most critical resource to the combat sortie generations, which is the manpower, right? Instead of having 7 people, we go down to 2, and the rest of the people can go do other maintenance somewhere else, you know what I mean? It's gonna also save us money just on man hours alone. So $266,000 would be saved every 2 years. And if, like I said, if we had the jacks 2 years ago, they would have paid themselves off already, right? 1.5 years is done. So these jacks are also more deployable, right? So say if there's an MRT or a plane down somewhere like off the grid, right? These old jacks would take 2 C-130s, that's 10 pallet positions, right? 1 C-17, right? The new system, 6 pallet positions, 1 C-130. So basically, you could save 1 plane using 1 plane instead of 2, right? Slide, please. So how would we complete this project? So think of it kind of like a plan, right? We're going to operationalize them at Ramstein first, right? Spread them over to the C17s and the C5s, right? Then we need to solidify all the requirements. We need to basically get the minimum manning. We need to get the positions that need to be managed during the actual jacks, solidify all that. Next, we need to talk to our item managers, right? Have them create the NSNs, get them into the Air Force ecosystem. That way we can use the old method for the old jacks when it comes to like ordering a complete set or just parts or anything like that. We can use the same method on the new jacks. It's not an issue. Next, we need to create the TOs, the IPBs, and the training plans. That way everybody's on the same page, knows how to do it, right? And then from there, we can expand Air Force wide and hopefully to the rest of the military. And we're really excited to use these jacks and see our idea kind of bloom into reality. You know what I mean? So we thank you for your time and we open the floor to any questions.
In our modern Air Force, I applaud these gentlemen for minimizing the roles of plumb bobs and sledgehammers. You mentioned that this reduces the cargo footprint. Could you speak more to that? The jacks looked like a pretty similar size.
Yeah, so the jack sizes are pretty much the same, right? But here's how we go down. So instead of using what we call jack stands, with the old jacks, we have to put airmen under the plane, right? They have to stand on the jacks and hold their fingers and pinch points and things like that, right? That's no longer needed. Those stands take up 2 pallet positions. That's how we're at 10, right? So when we reduce it, we're going down to 6. And the way we're doing that is because, like I said, we're taking them away. The jacks still take 2 pallet positions each for the wings, and the nose jacks only take 1 pallet position. The module also takes 1, so.
Awesome. The theme for this year's LOA Symposium is Mission Generation Under Attack. We love these high technology options and innovations, but what happens in a low power or no power environment?
So if you have no access to any power at all, these jacks can still be operated manually. So, it's gonna take more people, but it's still less people to manually jack the old jacks. It's still less people.
And this is something that we want to test as well. We got them right before LOA, and we have a plan in place to actually get back to Ramstein, use these manually, and see what that looks like.
Awesome. You talked about operationalizing at Ramstein. What does it look like as far as interchangeability? How do you actually transition to a new airframe?
So really what is needed is just the requirements that your aircraft needs for a jack. The amount that you're going to lift, the jack size, the footprint of the jacks specifically, like as they're sitting next to your plane. Once that is available, these jacks can be put into play for your aircraft. And even for us, it's as simple as changing an adapter on top. But the important thing is we need our SPOs, we need our group commanders, our squadron commanders to take this, find your maintainers, put this technology to them and really give them the tools that they need to do the job better and be the best maintainers in the best Air Force.
Yeah. And give it up for modernizing aircraft jacking. That's awesome. That was a big deal. As a crew chief, that's a big deal. That's really awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and welcome the next team to the stage. This is the Shapeshifters, all the way from Eielson.
Hello. How's everyone doing today? All right. So my name is Staff Sergeant Soliday. On our team, we have Staff Sergeant Bacher, Staff Sergeant Meyer, and Senior Airman Lucky. We are the Shapeshifters. Just to give you a little bit of idea, what we're going to be talking about today is some digital twin stuff. So if you're ready to get twinning, we're going to get ready and start.
The question presented to us by Tesseract is, how might we utilize advancements such as process improvements, distributed ledger technologies, or automation to mitigate supply chain risk and streamline supply chain operations? As you mentioned before, what we have to offer today is digital twin. Now to explain exactly what that is, I'd like to provide a parallel example. I'm sure there's a few of you here that at some point have thought about or dreamed about remodeling your own home, or at least watched Chip and Joanna Gaines do it on the home network. At a certain point in the project, you see the designer sit down with the client and present them with a three-dimensional mock-up of what their future kitchen might look like based on the client's preferences. Now, the difference between a simple mock-up of a warehouse and a true digital twin is that a digital twin is based on real-world data that's live, it's active, and it's changing based on the assets moving in and out of the warehouse locations. Currently, military warehousing does not have a truly effective method for representing layouts and asset locations inside them. The processes are pretty antiquated. For example, a ammo troop utilizing grid paper, stepping with his feet and counting the squares to get square footage for a layout. As you can imagine, that could be pretty frustrating when trying to learn how to get proficient at your job and be effective.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a really great example. I want to give you a supply example. So today, Airman Lucky has just now became a part of supply. All right?
Soup soup.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. So now that Airman Lucky is a part of supply, I work the receiving portion. I get a part that comes in, and I go over here, and Airman Lucky, it's a notice to stock. On that piece of paper he's got, it tells him no warehouse location. So Airman Lucky turns around, and he looks around his warehouse, and he says, where am I going to put this part? He decides that he wants to put it on the highest shelf possible, furthest away from the location that it needs to be, and it turns out that asset was actually a high demand asset. So this can cause a lot of frustration later on.
Improper asset location can be detrimental from a rapid response perspective. When a maintainer needs a part within 30 minutes to get a jet rolling down the taxiway, clear for takeoff, and doing the exact job it was designed to do in the first place. My hope for this briefing is for you to have a better understanding of the true impact that this product can have on not only the airmen's lives, but the mission itself. Go ahead.
So what you're going to see here demonstrated in front of you is a 3D warehouse with heat mapping capabilities based off of demand data. So the very first portion that this was provided by was an industry company. I do want you to keep in mind, however, there are alternative solutions, and we will discuss them later on. You can see the high demand assets. They're located in this warehouse sporadically all throughout the warehouse. You're going to next see the semi-high demand assets, and so forth. We color-coded them as well to make it a little bit simpler and easier to identify throughout the showing of the video. The next portion that you're going to see here is the screen that's able to actually demonstrate how that information would populate up. On the left-hand side, you'll actually see the data for that part that you're pulling or looking at inside your warehouse to determine, is that really the right location for that part? It quickly identifies it and color codes it as well. Our goal for this in the future is for it to be a true digital twin and have a live access to it by connecting through ILSS systems, Blade, TICMs, and so forth.
More time. There you go.
Sorry. All right, so we would like to just go ahead and discuss some of the benefits for this project. It's going to improve warehouse storage system. So in supply, we like to think three-dimensional, and that's why we wanted to create a visualization tool for you to be able to see three-dimensional. You have your length, your width, and your height. Oftentimes, height is forgotten about whenever you're actually placing a part in a location. Some of the other additional benefits is it's going to reduce your pull and put away time for the assets to be delivered to the customer. In addition, it's also going to give you strategic oversight for all of your assets placement at a much higher level. So operationally, we would be able to make better strategic decisions on how we do a placement for a warehouse.
At the end of the day, it's about improving the daily lives of our airmen by providing a functional program that prioritizes time and ease of use. So to sum up the benefits here, this program can increase warehouse efficiency, reduce the footprints by optimizing layouts, and improve strategic oversight and planning. This program will ensure assets arrive in a warfighter's hands faster.
So one of our future transitions is to hope to incorporate AI capabilities to be able to make better decisions on how a layout should be made for the warehouse itself. That gives you to make multiple decision options between basing it off of a high demand pool or a U-line design for a warehouse. In addition, we're hoping to change it into RPA incorporated as well for robotics process automation. And we also want to utilize this project, as we stated before, as a baseline to integrate digital twin. We understand that this is going to go out to be more. It's just currently this is how we would integrate into digital twin for the warehouse.
Thank you for lending us your ears today, and then we'll open the floor for any questions.
That's really awesome. For those of you who know me, you know that I love data, so I was kind of nerding out with Sergeant Soliday for the last 6 months on this one. Before we move on to the questions, I would like to give a special shout out to a guest that we have in the audience. Sergeant Soliday's mom is actually here. You see her? It takes a whole team, and that's awesome to have a support network. Heck yeah. I love data. How do we get data structures that represent our warehouses into my computer?
So if you're talking about the model, for example, so for me, I come from a bit of a engineering background, so CAD and stuff just came really familiar to me. So when we started discussing things about this project, it's pretty simple. I mean, coming from a two-dimensional, square footage representation, and then bringing that to a program like SolidWorks, for example, you can just create a quick visualization of exactly how you want everything to lay up. But then when it comes to integrating that data, that's where things get a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I think basically what we worked on first was proving that, hey, can we actually do this? And so we did the CAD design together, and then we said, hey, this is no kidding, we can actually create something here. So we reached out to the industry partners just to see if possible of creating an MVP overall.
Cool. I do have a home improvement project I'll talk to you guys afterwards about. In your grandest vision of this, do you think of it more as a recommendation tool or just for part accountability, or speak to that if you would?
Yes. No. So basically right now it's currently just a visualization tool meant for managers and supervisors, as well as strategic oversight for, hey, where are parts actually being placed in our warehouse? How can we modify our warehouse to improve it for the overall parts placement? And that's ran by utilizing the M14 listing, which pulls the demand data. However, to make it more accurate would be to connect it to ILSS system or Blade that's coming online in July as well. So that way you could get like your requisition objective data to truly reflect that demand level.
So if you connect these systems, then we can have kind of automatic queuing for demand level changes being represented.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. All right. Big thanks to the shapeshifters from Eielson. Next, we have a tool that you may have already heard of, but we invite her along to share on the big stage. This is automated passenger reservation tool from Air Force IMSC in San Antonio, Texas.
Who has PCS before? Now, keep your hands up if this has always been a smooth transition for you. The logistics that goes into a move like this, and you know what's crazy? That a single piece of paper can delay everything. Like the very important AFIMT Form 1546, or as what you may know as the port call worksheet. This is what books your travel to your next location. Good morning, my name is Texan Hernandez Chavez, and I'm here representing the APRT team. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a shift worker. Most customer service hours are from 08 to 1600, and you get off at 05. Let's say you arrive to the TMO office at 08, exhausted, and you're waiting 15 minutes 30 minutes, an hour. At one of our locations, we had a minimum wait time of 2 hours. Now imagine doing this on multiple occasions. It's exhausting. This is a struggle we've heard way too often from our airmen and guardians. So how do we give time back, not just to the customers, but to the TMO offices? Gone are the days of a full lobby, wait times, just to turn in a piece of paper. Let me introduce to you the Automated Passenger Reservation Tool. And since we love acronyms, we've already renamed it APRT. A little backstory, during COVID, I was deployed for most of it, and I took the time to create a custom SharePoint design for all redeployments, emergency leaves, and for PCSs out of IUD. When I arrived back, I pitched the idea to my squadron to further develop the tool. At the same time, I was picked up by Air Force IMSC to further develop the tool enterprise-wide. So what is APRT? APRT is a custom SharePoint web application that allows members to submit their port call from a CAC-enabled device, thus eliminating the need for in-person visit. This also helps the TMO offices better assist their customers by prioritizing them. So where are we now? As a matter of fact, 28 installations are currently using the tool. We had one instance where a TMO lead was using the tool, PCS to location, not currently using the tool. And then she pleaded to her leadership to have APRT implemented there. We had another installation state to us, even if this doesn't go enterprise-wide, can they keep the tool as it has helped in their operations? Further, 78 installations are currently trained, so the odds are very high for those LRS and APS squadron commanders in attendance that your TMO office is ready to adopt this tool. At a recent conference with the Defense Travel Management Office, DTMO, we were able to showcase this to the Navy and the Marines, which had very receptive response and are looking for a way forward to implement into their services. This could lead to a collaboration DoD-wide. But SharePoint has limitations. It's limited to those airmen and guardians within the AFNet 52 server, which means those that have AF.mil. This leaves our medical personnel as well as every other service from using the tool. The long-term sustainability is also at risk. Since this is in the Air Force IMSC SharePoint, there's no contractual support to maintain this program. APRT will not survive unless this is scaled. So where are we headed? We've coordinated with different organizations that deal with web development. And after exploring and conversating with them, we have, as a team, decided that Bespin would be the best fit. As Bespin already creates applications for the DoD, this will be a seamless endeavor for them. The app will allow all airmen and guardians accessibility to the tool, as well as the whole DoD, which you know, TMO serves every branch. Which begs the question, how do we get there? I'll do a shameless plug and let you know that APRT is available for your TMO offices today, and we're happy to do training for them. Second, we need your support with the initial discovery cost of $280,000 to initiate with Bespin, and the resources to sustain this tool. We won't be just making our money back and the time saved, we'll also be bettering the lives of our airmen and guardians, our diverse mission, and our sister services. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll stick around for questions.
Sergeant Hernandez Chavez actually taught herself how to do some low-code development while she was deployed to develop this tool. So big shout out for that. That's awesome. I can also relate to this. I did not know that in a travel office you could feel fear, but when all your stuff is on the line and your family depends on it, that's very real. So yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned this is already operational at 28 installations. That is no small feat. Why do you need to upscale?
Like I stated, it's not accessible unless you're in the AFNet 52 server. So there's a whole group of people that we're still missing that don't have access to it, as well as the contractual support. So I deploy actually next week, and I won't be available to support this. So we need a bigger basis to support this.
Okay. Speaking of support, is there an existing requirement that we can include this in or attach this to, or we're working on generating a new one?
As of right now, we don't know of one. However, we are here to seek out senior leadership support to either help us find one or create one.
Awesome. The theme of this year's symposium, as mentioned, is mission generation under attack. Could you speak to how this affects the mission?
So APRT was built to give time back to our customers and the TMO offices. I stated earlier that there was a 2-hour wait minimum at one of our locations. The location then implemented this tool, and now they have a 0 wait limit. So now we're giving time to those airmen to complete the mission.
Ladies and gentlemen, APRT. Last but certainly not least, we have Project Kinetic Cargo out of Kadena Air Base, Japan.
Ooh. Good morning, LOA. I'm Master Sergeant Brandon Allensworth from the 18th LRS, Kadena Air Base, Okinawa, Japan.
I'm Master Sergeant Peter Salinas from Scott Air Force Base, and we're here to introduce Project Kinetic Cargo, digitizing and modernizing the cargo deployment process. This is our question that we're answering for the Aether Sprint challenge.
Isn't it amazing to have that one-day shipping option from Amazon for your personal products? But what if you needed to ship equipment for an entire business or support equipment for an entire fighter squadron? That one-day shipping option is a pipe dream using our current mobility process.
Our current Air Force standard for mobility movements have not changed in over 20 years. Our airmen are currently using yardsticks, measuring tapes, and heavy scales that have to be frequently moved around in order to capture weights and dimensions, which can take up to 20 minutes per vehicle. To add to our airmen's problem, they have to deal with enormous amounts of paperwork that get lost to the process itself or to weather. When we get aircraft departure times, we have to start our process 48 to 72 hours prior, which equates to $150,000 worth of man hours lost per aircraft load. This is a strategic problem because it turns our hubs into bottlenecks. If we want to deploy our weapon systems, we do not have that one-day shipping option using our traditional methods.
Now, let me tell you how long it will take to get the weights, dimensions, and calculate center of balance using Project Kinetic Cargo, as long as it took me to say that sentence. We maximize cargo operations by combining 2 processes. One is an off-the-shelf, weigh-in-motion, laser profiling cargo measurement system. This allows us to capture all required data with a single pass through the lasers and scales. The second is completely digitizing all cargo documentation, allowing us to electronically receive, store, and transfer cargo documents and aircraft commander packages. Kinetic Cargo allows the deployment operations to go from days to hours, giving the Air Force that needed one-day shipping option. We have been using Kinetic Cargo, or a beta version of Kinetic Cargo, on multiple exercises throughout the Pacific to include its largest exercise, COPE North. In 2020, using the traditional method, we processed 100 increments of cargo in 4 days. That's 96 hours. Now, fast forward to last month, Using Project Kinetic Cargo, we were able to process roughly the same number of increments in just 12 hours. Pause for effect. Ooh. And I would like to point out for the video on the left, if you didn't catch that, they made a mistake and drove off the scales. That had to be repositioned and redone again. So we have already scaled this system across 5 locations in the Pacific and 2 in Air Mobility Command. The hardware itself costs roughly $170,000, and this is not limited to the Department of Defense, but is scalable to NATO and our allied partners.
Leaders, teammates, we are here today requesting to have this capability at multiple locations to include joint bases and en-route locations, as well as have this project centrally managed. We also need an authority to operate for the scale system on the Air Force network. The cost to equip 20 locations is $3.4 million, which pales in comparison with not being able to meet our future demands. We want to get you less focused on congested hubs and more on our ability to provide agile combat employment.
We have already, as I've stated earlier, began scaling at the speed of relevancy. We have received funds, again, to outfit 5 locations in Pacific, in PACAF, and 2 in AMC, executing this using our local contracting squadron. We have already received our first Kinetic Cargo package and used it on Cope North, just again, as I said earlier. What we need from you, ladies and gentlemen, many of you in the audience, is support in executing our process map. PACAF is currently seeking funds to further outfit the remaining locations within their AOR. And we have received expressed interest from AFSOC and USAFE units.
For our process map, these are the phases that we need help with. First, we need to update policy. Current policy requires paper documentation, which affects our digital mobility process. Adding the digital option would help out a lot. On top of the policy update, informing air crews of this new directive will ensure that our digital process is utilized from start to end. We also really need the authority to operate for that scale system so that we can fully utilize the data import-export capabilities that is offered by that scale system so that we can transmit data between gates, I-codes, and CMOS, and LogMod. We also want to establish field reps at these locations that have this capability so we can ensure proper utilization. We want data collection, and we want to share the best practices for using this capability. We also want to use a better platform, such as Matters Most, so that we can transmit data, cargo data, as soon as the cargo processing is complete. We can send that data to air crews so that they know exactly what they're going to be getting. Then for phase 2, we want to equip more locations. We want the requirements to be built in so that we can actually get this project centrally managed, and that would also take care of the sustainment piece for all these locations. And of course, we want to share this capability with our sister services so we can move them as fast as we can move ourselves. And then at the end, we want to be able to scale out to more locations, and we want to win in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Plumb bobs, sledgehammers, yardsticks, laser profiling. I like it. Good day to be in the Air Force. You spoke in phase 1 about policy upgrades. Could you speak more to what kind of scope you're looking for in that?
Yes, for the policy updates, what we're looking for is to include the option to use the digital capability for the digital mobility process. That way it can further streamline the process from start to end.
I'd like to touch on that too, right? The digital process is so big, right? Let's get real. We've been using the digital process at Kadena for over a year, okay? Units have been emailing us their documents. We get their cargo documentation early enough to see if there's any kind of errors with the cargo or with the documentation. We use that to go through the CDF process, okay? In checking the cargo, going through the weights. We then use that again to go through the mobility forces process for joint inspection. After that is done, we combine that into one aircraft commander package and give that to the air crews digitally. 8 times out of 10, they accept it without fail. We have been reaching out to airlift squadrons as soon as their aircraft is assigned, and again, 8 times out of 10, They accept it without fail. That's where we need also that aircraft commander or aircrew directive to allow them to understand this option is there and to have it and to have us receive it. But we do, just to keep with the AFI and keep with regulations for everybody that heard we've been doing it without updates, we do print off the aircraft commander packages as needed. Everything else is digitally transferred and stored in accordance with our AFRAM's AFIs.
Awesome. You mentioned the ACE concept in there. Maybe I missed it. Is this a deployable technology? And if so, what's the footprint that we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a very deployable technology. All the equipment fits on one 4630 pallet, and it takes about 20 minutes for 2 individuals to unpack and set up. And on top of that, once it's unpacked and set up, the space that you need to operate the system is basically this amount of space that you got on the stage right here. And then you can pack, once you're done with your processing, you can pack it back up, put it back on your 4630, and then go to another location.
Thank you.
Agile.
You also mentioned the need for an ATO. What does that get us if you guys are already operational with this?
So the ATO will eliminate more human factors, more possibility for errors, because right now what is currently being done is all the data is being collected on our scale system, and then we are putting it on a CD-ROM and then transferring it over, copying and pasting the cargo data into our systems. If we have that ATO, we can, with a click of a mouse or a push of a button, we can transmit that data to our gates, iCodes, and CMOS logmod systems so that all that information is transferred over seamlessly and quickly, and that eliminates the chance of user error.
Add CD wallet to the list of outdated equipment required for these existing processes. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Project Kinetic Cargo. At this time, I'd like to welcome the presenters for today back up on the stage, as well as Lieutenant General Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please have your attention? These 4 teams and their efforts over the past 6 months represent significant achievements for the logistics enterprise, and based on their incredible performance, Lieutenant General Miller would like to recognize their efforts. With that, will you please stand for the presentation of the Air Force Achievement Medal to our Aether Sprint teams. Attention to orders. These airmen distinguished themselves as Air Force Logistics Enterprise Innovators during the 2023 Aether Sprint program. They answered the Headquarters Air Force A4's call for ideas to improve the Air Force logistics capabilities, specifically those required to deliver and sustain agile combat support and mission generation against pacing adversaries. Ascending to the top positions out of a field of 36 teams, their ideas have shaped the direction of the logistics enterprise and will be considered for immediate scale and implementation. The efforts of these airmen standing in front of us serve as an example to us all on how fostering a culture of innovation and delivering airman-led solutions to the warfighter can improve the Air Force and win the next fight.
All right.
This concludes the Aether Sprint portion of LOA. Our team would like to extend a special thanks to all of you, the LOA 2023 team, our L&O coaches, and this year's presenters for an incredible event. Thank you, and see you again next year.
When you have, when people come up and ask you about, after you watch a vision of, what a contested environment is going to look like and what competition and winning in competition, and if competition, if it goes beyond competition and goes to conflict, what winning in that environment looks like. Sometimes you get asked, and I'm sure some of the senior leaders have shared this experience, you get asked, are you worried about what might happen? I'm actually not worried about what might happen. And the reason is we've got Airmen First Class, Senior Airmen, Staff Sergeants that think like this in the United States Air Force. So I think our role is to support them and to give them an environment where they can have, every single one of those ideas is well, no kidding, why aren't we doing that? It's absolutely remarkable. So when asked that question, are you worried about the future? No, I'm encouraged about the future. And it's really because of that. So thanks everybody for supporting them. That was great.